Hello, and welcome to the How to Make a podcast. My name is Casey Ruff from Boundless Body LLC, and I am the host of Boundless Body Radio. Before October of 2020, I was not a podcaster. Now, I have recorded hundreds of episodes featuring incredible guests, created tons of helpful content, and have consistently generated thousands of downloads every month since I began. I'm just a regular dude trying to share a message, and now I'm ready to show you my process, my successes and failures, and everything I've learned along the way to help you start your own podcast. Together, we'll explore the entire process of having a podcasting idea and take it all the way to publishing your first episode and explore all the steps in between. Then, I'll give you all the tools that you will need so you can record as many episodes that you want to release after that. Podcasting is one of the most enriching skills I've ever added to my life, and I've learned a ton by talking with some of my heroes and sharing it with anyone who wants to join us on our journey. So, sit back, grab a notebook, take some notes, and welcome to the How to Make a podcast. Hello, this is Casey Ruff. Like I said in the introduction, thank you so much for joining us on our show today. Before we get into some of the episodes that we will be releasing, we'll be discussing the entire process of podcasting, I just wanted to introduce the idea and tell the story of why we are even doing this. And so we're going to spend today just kind of introducing this idea. So it was 2014. I was working as a personal trainer, and it was the first time that I had even heard of the term podcast. I had no idea what that even meant. And I was taking a road trip where I would be driving alone into Colorado, spending a lot of time alone in the car. And I decided that I would look on the computer and see what these podcasts were all about. So I decided to search a topic that I thought I was really interested in. And I landed on the the Rewild Yourself podcast with Daniel Vitalis. And I remember thinking that some of the episodes seemed really interesting, and I decided to download a few of them for my road trip. And I couldn't believe how amazing the content was and what a game changer podcasting was. It was basically, back then in 2014, was pretty much the last time I ever listened to music in my car. I decided to really dedicate myself to low carbohydrate diets and ketogenic diets, and podcasting really just became a way for me to learn the latest and greatest of what was out there in the nutrition world that I was in. And I was able to hear such great content that was always up to date with so many different people. And it became just this really wonderful way for me to learn while I was on the go. I didn't have as much time to read books, and so podcasting was this amazing way to learn something on a commute or drive to the store or whatever. So that continued for a long time, and I really kind of branched out and listened to a lot of different episodes of a ton of different podcasts. So what happened during the pandemic is the gym that my wife Bethany and I were working at ended up closing down, and we decided very quickly that things were going to change and they were not going to be coming back online anytime soon. And we also noticed that a lot of the clients that we were training at the gym had gotten used to training at home or training outside. They were doing different things rather than going to the gym since it was closed. And we figured that a lot of those habits were going to stick after a while. I think it was kind of nice for some of our clients to work out at home. They didn't need to commute as much. They could accomplish so much with just so few things at home. It was really cool. So anyway, we started our own business in the summer of 2020 during the pandemic, and we named it Boundless Body LLC. And it has been an incredible journey. We've never owned a business before, and we're definitely blood, sweat, and tears learning along the way and learning as we go. But it's been amazing. We've been able to serve and protect our clients and keep them happy and keep them getting results along the way. It's been really amazing. And basically, since starting our own business, I really kind of knew that I wanted to give back on a platform that gave so much to me in my career. And so I decided very early on in the summer of 2020 that I was going to start a podcast. The trick was I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, how much it cost, what equipment you needed, what kind of software you needed, how you even conduct interviews. All of it was really difficult. I just knew that I wanted to do it. So I started to reach out, and I really, tried to get help from as many people as I possibly could. So I called other podcast hosts that I really know and admire and ask them for tips and tricks. I have to give a shout out to Jason Hewlett. He's an entertainer that lives in my neighborhood. I got to go over and talk to him. He is an expert on video and sound and all that kind of stuff. And so he really taught me a lot in the beginning. And over time, I overcame the resistance. It was quite a bit of resistance. And we, after a few months, had the equipment we needed. And my wife and I wanted to make our first recording. Now, the way I think about resistance is the way that Stephen Pressfield talks about it in his book, The War of Art, where anytime you're trying to create something, you're trying to write a book or an article, or you're going to do a video series or something like this, a podcast, anything creative in that process, you will hit resistance, meaning there's something inside you that tells you not to do it or tells you will do it, but we're going to start tomorrow. It can be really, difficult to overcome. It can be a form of imposter syndrome or thinking you don't have a voice. And I'll never forget, my wife and I scheduled the day and time that we were going to sit down and record the podcast. It was a Sunday morning and we were out on separate walks. And as we were walking to the house, I said to her via text, I said, look, Bethany, let's give it one more day. Let me practice the intro one more time. Let me see if I can smooth out the kinks in the audio. And as we were meeting up by the house, she had just read my text and said, absolutely not. Let's march up there. Let's push record and let's get this done. And I'm so grateful for her to do that because I would have delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. So I'm really grateful for her. I'm glad we made our first recording because after that, it became much, much easier. Over time, we realized this would be a journey of improving and growth mindset. And the first episodes that we put out, when I go back and listen to them, I love the content, but the audio quality isn't as good. The questions weren't as interesting. And so we've really tried to refine our process over time. And it's been almost a year and we have recorded just over 200 episodes already. We are scheduled to release 3 times a week for the next few months, even if I don't do any more interviews, which I have many, many scheduled. And we've really learned a lot along the way. And with that learning, I've had other friends reach out and ask me like, how did you do this? What equipment do you use? Do you think I can do this? What things should I be thinking about? And it's been really fun to be able to demonstrate the stuff that I do in my process, the equipment that I use, the software that I use. And it's actually helped a few other people start their own podcasts. And so that's really been amazing. When I tried to look out to see what content was out there, if I wanted to share something with somebody that had the entire process from start to finish kind of covered, I couldn't really find much out there. There's definitely bits and pieces, and there's definitely shows that talk about, how to conduct great interviews, how to pick out equipment and things like that, which is really amazing. But I didn't see the process go step by step all in one place. And I ended up looking for the term, how to make a podcast, and it hadn't been taken. And I remember the night that I had this idea, it just hit me like a stream of consciousness of all these ideas. In probably 30 seconds, I had everything planned out. I reached out to the guy who designed our logo, Hudson. He works at Oak Advertising, which is an amazing company. If you ever need logos or designs made, he's amazing. I asked him to make a podcast cover for us, which he did very quickly, and it was incredible. And I decided that I would create this podcast alongside the other podcast we have, Boundless Body Radio. And I would take people through the entire process of podcasting from start to finish. My reason for doing this show is I really want to share this message and to help people understand the things that come really easily and you might be really good at, or the things that you may need to struggle through, where to outsource certain things. We may end up monetizing this podcast. We'll never monetize the passion project that we have, Boundless Body. That will never be monetized. I vowed never to do that. I always wanted to be very upfront and honest about that creation was going to be something that I would pay for, I would front the cost for, and it would be something that would be mine to share with everybody. And we've done some wonderful work over there, I would say. But my wife for this show is really just to share the entire process and hopefully get you thinking about, what things you want to incorporate, what kind of equipment you want to do, and things like that. So the way we're going to set this up is the first maybe 10 or 12 different episodes are going to be the process of getting your podcast launched. So each episode will maybe be about 20 minutes. I've got most of them kind of planned out and storyboarded. I don't know exactly how long they're going to go. But during those steps, we're going to take you through the very first, creation, what idea you have, why you're doing your podcast, and we're going to take you through hardware, software. We're going to talk about finding guests. We're going to talk about interviewing people and how to create interesting questions. We're going to talk about the editing process, processing your audio, how you're going to be able to pull that off. I'm also going to share with you exactly what I do. And I'll reiterate this probably a million times on the show. I'm going to try to give you enough options that you can do things the way you want to do them, but I am also going to tell you exactly what I do. And just remember that there's no one way to do this. I was actually super surprised by the number of options and the number of things to think about when you're recording your own podcast. So just remember, as I'm sharing with you what I do, you're not locked into doing exactly that, but I do think it's really helpful to understand exactly the steps of a podcast that has been very successful so that you can emulate that. Maybe that can be a starting point for you and you can grow and branch out after that, which would be totally fine. So that's what to expect. We're going to drop all of those episodes all on the first day. I'm thinking of dropping them on podcasting day, which is, I believe, September 30th, 2021. I didn't know that's a thing, but there's a day for everything. So I guess September 30th is podcasting day. So I'm going to try to drop all of those on that day. And then after that, I'm still unsure of the format or the form that this show will take. Largely, it'll be based on feedback. And so, what people are asking for is probably what we'll try to give and provide. So we may interview other podcasters. We may talk to some of these companies of the products that I use and some of the things that they recommend. So there's a lot of different possibilities. We may release those weekly, we may do those monthly, or we may do those as, an episode inside of a season and run that temporarily through the year. So we'll figure that out over time. Your feedback will really determine how we proceed with this. And so anything you want to leave us as far as a rating review would be wonderful, but just expect that we'll take you through this process step by step, and hopefully we'll give you some great ideas and help you launch your own show if that's still something you want to do. So thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the How to Make a Podcast podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple. Also, be sure to check out the show that made all of this possible, Boundless Body Radio, where we provide tons of helpful and informative content, feature incredible guests, and talk all about health and wellness. Cheers, and thank you for joining us on the How to Make a Podcast podcast.